Israel, put your hope in Yahweh.
Hey, shalom everyone. It's Chris Wilson, Torah and Messiah YouTube channel. It's approximately 6:20 a.m. Sitting here at the table drinking my coffee and found my microphone, so hopefully the audio quality is a little bit better than my dump truck. And for the morning devotional, I don't really have a necessary topic other than just wanting to discuss false witnesses. It's been on my heart since my wife and family got back yesterday from the Pardo family in Dallas regarding the CPS case and the removal of the child Drake from the household. So I wanted to read some scriptures for you. Got a couple. See if you can catch on to what I'm getting at here. The first one is based out of Matthew chapter 26. And we'll start at verse 50. And this is whenever Yeshua is being captured. And it says, "And Yeshua said to him, 'Friend, why have you come?' Then they came and laid hands on Yeshua and seized him. And look, one of those with Yeshua put out his hand and drew his sword, and striking the servant of the high priest, he cut off his ear. Then Yeshua said to him, 'Return your sword to its place, for all who take the sword shall die by the sword. Or do you think that I am not able to pray to my Father now, and he shall provide me with more than 12 legions of messengers? How then would the scriptures be filled that it has to be this way?' In that hour Yeshua said to the crowds, 'Have you come out as against a robber with swords and clubs to arrest me? Daily I sat with you, teaching in the set-apart place, and you did not seize me. But all this came to be so that the scriptures of the prophets might be filled.' Then all the taught ones left him and fled. And those who had seized Yeshua led him away to Caiaphas, the high priest." I'm reading the scriptures version, so Caiaphas is what it normally say, "where the scribes and the elders were gathered together. But Peter followed him at a distance to the courtyard of the high priest, and he went in and sat with the servants to see the end. And the chief priests and the elders and all the council were seeking false witness against Yeshua to put him to death, but found none. Although many false witnesses came forward, they found none. But at last 2 false witnesses came forward and said, 'This one said, I am able to destroy the dwelling place of Elohim and build it in 3 days.' And the high priest stood up and said to him, 'Have you no answer to make? What do these witness against you?' But Yeshua remained silent. So the high priest said to him, 'I put you to oath by the living Elohim that you say to us if you are the Messiah, the Son of Elohim.' Yeshua said, 'You have said it. Besides, I say to you, from now on you shall see the Son of Adam sitting at the right hand of the power and coming on the clouds of the heaven.' Then the high priest tore his garments, saying, 'He has blasphemed. Why do we need any more witnesses?'" Remember the type of witnesses that they brought up against Yeshua. They were false witnesses. Okay, going back, I want to go over to Acts chapter 6. I want to go down to verse 8. Verse 7. "And the word of Elohim spread, and the number of the taught ones increased greatly in Jerusalem, and great many of the priests were obedient to the belief. And Stephen, filled with belief and power, did great wonders and signs among the people. But some of those of the so-called congregation of the freedmen, Cyrenians, Alexandrians, and those from Cilicia and Asia, rose up, disputing with Stephen. But they were unable to resist the wisdom and the spirit by which he spoke. Then they instigated men to say, quote, 'We have heard him speak blasphemous words against Moshe and Elohim,' end quote. And they stirred up the people and the elders and the scribes, so they came upon him, seized him, and brought him to the council. And they set up false witnesses, who said, 'This man does not cease to speak blasphemous words against this set-apart place and the Torah. For we have heard him saying that this Yeshua of Nazareth shall overthrow this place and change the institutes which Moshe delivered unto us.' And they set up false witnesses." Okay, one more. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 13 through 15. "And if there is no resurrection of the dead, then Messiah has not been raised. And if Messiah has not been raised, then our proclaiming is empty, and your belief also empty. And we are also found false witnesses of Elohim, because we have witnessed of Elohim that he raised up Messiah, whom he did not raise up, if then the dead are not raised. Okay, so here they're being accused as being false witnesses of the resurrection. I don't know what that noise is. Let's go to Matthew chapter 15, verse 19. We'll back up to verse 18. But what comes out of the mouth comes from the heart, and these defile the man. For out of the heart come forth wicked reasonings, murders, adulteries, whorings, thefts, false witnessings, slanders. These defile the man, but to eat with unwashed hands does not defile the man. So we see that false witnessings, slanders, whorings, thefts, adulteries, murders, and wicked reasonings come out of the heart and defile a man. Mark chapter 14, starting at verse 53. And they led Yeshua away to the high priest, and all the chief priests and the elders and the scribes came together to him. And Peter followed him at a distance, even into the courtyard of the high priest. And he was sitting with the officers and warming himself at the fire. The chief priests and all the council were seeking witness against Yeshua to put him to death. And they were finding none, for many bore false witness against him, but their evidences did not agree. And some rose up and bore false witness against him, saying, and then he goes on to talk about the dwelling place. Okay, they bore false witnesses, right? Let's go to Luke 18:20. This is in reference to the rich young ruler, and he says, you know the commands. Do not commit adultery. Do not murder. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness. So, what did Yeshua say in Matthew chapter 15? For out of the heart come forth wicked reasonings, false witnessing, and those defile a man. So what I'm getting at here is because whenever I'd heard that the case had came back not in favor of the parents over the child Drake in the Pardo case, meaning they lost, after much contemplation and with my wife asking questions to a dear brother, Hector, thank you, it seems as if the family were in search of answers, and they were going through different medical evaluations in hospitals, whereas one doctor, I guess, didn't like what the parents were doing. Maybe the parents weren't accepting the evaluations that the doctors were doing from other clinics, and so they were bouncing around seeing if they could find something different in search of gaining the health and vitality of their child. And it seems as if this doctor had rose up against the family and brought about a false witness, and this led to the CPS case and the court hearing that my family and many others went to go support this family to get their child back yesterday at the hearing on July 2nd. Just as they rose up false witnesses against our Messiah, our King, just as they rose up false witnesses against Stephen, just as they accused the Apostle Paul as being a false witness for Elohim. And my point is that we are living in times where people may not like what we are doing. People may look at us and want to destroy us, and they might want to raise up false witnesses against us. And so as an encouragement, I want to encourage you, although this is easier said than done because I couldn't fathom my children being taken away, but the hope that is in me and the hope that is in you, we must remain strong, brethren. We must be able to come together and unite and hold one another's hand in times of distress, especially like this. We must also be able to come together and bear each other's burden and be there to weep with one another, be there to be joyful with one another in times of joy, be there to comfort one another in times of distress and trial and tribulation, such as the Pardo family. And I know many of you, according to eyewitness accounts of my wife and other people who were there at the case, there were many families who came to support this one family in the case hearing. And that speaks volumes, because despite our doctrinal differences, we should be able to rise up and come together as the body of Messiah to stand by one another in times like these, to remind each other, hey, we're not alone. There's something in a courtroom when you're not alone. You see other people you never even met or heard of before coming there to back you. It gives you a sense of feeling of hope, of confidence, of an emotional awareness of, man, these people are with me. I'm not alone in this fight. And we're going to keep pressing forward despite the situation. And Yeshua said, Father, I pray that you take this cup from my hand and basically give it to someone else. Don't let me go through with this. Let it be upon someone else. But not my will be done, your will be done. And these are hard words to swallow and hard words to speak for myself, because it's not happening to me. Could I sit here and still give this message even if it were happening to me? Yeshua said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. And that's very hard to do. Forgiveness at the very time of something happening. And my heart goes out to the family, and then also it's humbling to see how the father reacted the way he did, in such a humble manner, to the caseworker and to the police that were taking his child. My son was asking me, what would you do? And in the flesh, I'm like, man, I'd want to flee the country. I'd want to fight back. And it was really tough. And so it's very hard to fathom what we would do in that case. And I'm proud of the parent, the way he handled and conducted his demeanor. Because I bet that's a very, very tough situation to be in. And so it inspired me to want to put the video together this morning about their behavior, the way they handled things, and the unfairness of maybe what we see on the outside, but not truly know what's really going on. We can speculate all we want. And I know those can say many things that were actually there in the hearing of the case. But it's just false witnesses will be made up against us. The enemy knows that his time is short. The enemy knows that he's going to do anything he can to tear down believers and disunify, divide, and try to conquer us one by one. Oftentimes when he can't get to the parents, he goes after the children. He isolates them and takes them away. So we just need to come together and pray for this family. And not only that, but pray for all of us as a whole, that we may be protected and united and stand strong and firm in the belief in times of distress when we are encountered with such trials and tribulations as this. I do believe it's just only going to get worse, and it's a matter of time. But brothers, may you have a blessed day, and have a safe day. And I thank you for tuning in and watching this, and my heart and prayers go out to the Pardo family. And just know that you got a lot of people that are behind you and pushing for your victory. But the triumph is obviously in Yahweh through Yeshua, and it's Him in us. So may you be well rested in Him and find shalom that surpasses all your understanding in times that you don't know where to turn to. And thank you, and may Yahweh bless you and grant you peace and just protect you from all harm, sin, and evil, and may He grant you the victory in this case. Shalom.
My firstborn son, you are Israel, my chosen one.